Is your professor making you include sample calculations in your lab report? This video will show you how to make great sample calculations and explain why your professor wants you to do them. Sample calculations are important in a lab for two reasons. First, they help you make sure that your calculations are correct. This is very helpful if you are using a spreadsheet to quickly do repetitive calculations. Second, they help show your professor that you understand the calculations. You only need to place one sample calculation for each type of calculation into your report. You don't have to show multiple versions of the same repeated calculation. Use your spreadsheet to perform the repetitive calculations. You should write your sample calculations in your lab notebook. It is a good idea to recopy these calculations neatly before photographing or screenshotting them to place them into your lab report. You can write the calculations on paper or digitally on a tablet. I wrote the sample calculation in this video using Microsoft OneNote. I would then copy and paste it into my word processor. If you are so inclined, you can type them in a word processor. If you do this, use the insert equation options to do so. The sample calculation I'm making is based on a lab where different masses were hung from a spring and oscillated. The frequency was determined and the frequency squared was plotted as a function of the mass. After doing some algebra, we find that the model equation is a straight line. The fraction in parentheses turns out to be the slope of the line. We use this slope to determine g, the acceleration due to gravity. A sample calculation should include several key parts. I'll list them here, then go into details over the next few pages. A title describing the calculation. The starting equation. Any necessary algebra. The numbers that are inserted along with their units. Any appropriate middle steps. The unrounded answer. The unit algebra. And the final answer, fixed for significant digits along with its units. The title should consist of 2 or 3 words describing the calculation. The starting equation is the definitional or base equation. This would be the type of equation that you would find in a textbook or lab handout. Next, perform any algebra steps necessary to solve this equation for the variable of interest. Don't put any numbers into the equation unless it is a zero that helps simplify the algebra. You can combine any very simple steps, but try to make it clear what the steps are. Once you have solved for the variable of interest, put the values into the equation. Include any units. If any of the units cancel, put a slash through them. Now perform the math necessary to solve the equation. If you've simplified the equation well, you should be able to place the numbers directly into your calculator. I use the Desmo Scientific Calculator to do my calculations. It might be helpful to show intermediate steps, especially if part of the equation is a useful value. Do any algebra on the units. If any of the units cancel, put a slash through them. Group units that will eventually be combined. Be careful of any powers of 10 that are involved. Write down the final result with a few extra significant digits. Include the simplified units. For example, you might end up with something like Newton meters. Keep it this way for this penultimate step. Finally, write down the answer, fixed for significant digits. Combine any units where appropriate. For example, the units Newton meters could be combined into J for joules. Once you have a good copy of your sample calculation, take a picture or screenshot of it. Place this picture into your lab report in the appropriate spot. Don't include a photograph of a full page of sample calculations. Each sample calculation should be its own image. Crop down things to include only one sample calculation at a time. Make sure that the image is readable. It should be of a decent size and not stretched in any direction. If you're looking to learn how to write equations in Microsoft Word, check out this video. If you're looking for more information on writing lab reports, check out this playlist.